Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. If you are interested in finding out more about our network and host, you can head to uprntalkradio.com. There is thousands of archives. You can find out more about the shows, the host. There's something new happening all of the time. And yeah, the word on the street is we're getting the website updated. Hopefully there's going to be a chat, merch store, all kinds of fun stuff. So you can check that out there. I was very excited to receive our guest. You guys were asked about having somebody coming on to talk more about tarot reading, tarot cards, and, just as magical as my guest is, that appeared. So joining me tonight on Spirit Switchboard is Jen Sankey, professional witch, tarot creator, teacher, speaker, author of Manifesting by the Moon. So we are going to be talking about that tonight. With over 3 decades of experience tarot and energy healing, we will be exploring how to work with the lunar cycles, a practical and empowering way to support intention, magic, and real life transformation. Please welcome Jen to the show. Hi, Jen.
Hi, how's it going?
It's great. It's great. Good. And you're coming in right off the full moon. And I was thinking about that. It was kind of like synchronistic how, the timing of it. I think we're still kind of on the tail end of riding that energy, right?
Oh yeah. You have 3 days after that. It's still pretty active. So we're kind of like almost on the down curve of it, but it's still hanging on. I'm sure everybody can feel it still.
Yeah. And it's true. I don't know if it is just the collective consciousness of it, but it's a true thing. I know I don't sleep well leading up to, and that first day or two after, it's like up down kind of energy for sure.
It is a lot. And this is a heavy one too. So this one is a full moon in Libra. So it's a lot about relationships and seeing where you need to put up boundaries, where you need to kind of give a little. So that kind of stirs things up. So it definitely could be pretty heavy.
Oh, yeah, where you have balance and not have balance, where you're needing more balance, right?
Yeah.
And it was
showing you all of it.
yeah, it was a smack in the head for sure. And yeah, there was all kinds of stuff. My car broke down. So I had that happen. So I'm like, the full moon in my car stops.
Great. Oh no, that's so sucky.
Yeah. Let's put the manifesting to work. I love talking about manifesting. I love talking, I think people get in their own way and not understand. It's, when it's a lot easier than what people think. I think they complicate it. And once you have those tools in your tool belt and you start putting them to work, it just becomes a natural way of living. It's not like, hey, Wednesday I'm taking a yoga class, or Thursday I'm going to start my manifesting. It just becomes this beautiful 24/7 flow.
Yeah, it just becomes a part of your everyday and your routine, and that's what's really the big part of it. And because if you are always like, I have to manifest something, so I got to set aside time and I have to set this up this way and do that this way, you're never going to do it, because just the overwhelm of having to prepare everything is going to keep you from doing it. So, it's so important. And it's also, a lot of people think that you can just put out a wish and it's just going to happen. I'm going to manifest this and it's going to land in your lap. And that's not going to happen either. So I think by taking the time to really learn what these things mean and what they mean to you is so, so, so important.
I agree. I was just going to do some hellos. People in the chat.
Yeah.
Hi, Lena. Thank you so much for being here. Sandy Cordick is chiming in from Prince Edward Island. It's nice to see you, Sandy. Hi, Catherine. My favorite Gemini. Julie. Vanessa Burwell, thank you so much. I have very vivid dreams over full moons. I normally don't, but this one was weird.
Yeah.
Oh, Z Sun Dragon, thank you so much. It's great having you here. Hi, Leslie. Chiming in, a part of the conversation. Hi, Kathy. I have worked full time as a medium for just under 20 years. It's how I've always been. It's my natural, right? From the time I was very little, and I always struggled with my name. Like, do I call myself a psychic medium? And it was a lot of, and the things that I do, what I talk about publicly. It's taken a lot of time to and a lot of work on myself too, where my triggers were and traumas and blocks, all of those things, to get to that comfortable place and how I wanted to present to myself and share. So when I was reading your bio and when you sent it, I was like, oh, you badassery witch, you. I think I just adore you. Like, to just have that comfortableness in your skin to say, okay, professional witch, and let's get going, and it not sound like, the buzzwords that get used by some people who can manipulate are the same words that we would use in the way that we're teaching and talking. And I think that was also something that I thought about. But I love how you present your information and stand in your power, and that you want to inspire other people to do the same. It's brilliant.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a very big compliment. And, I think it's that leading by example. And I think now too, as you can relate, you have a couple of years under your belt in regards to what you do, it's we kind of have to show those younger generations how to harness that energy, how to step into who you are and who you want to be. And again, understanding that. And really also, even while I wrote my book, or even when doing my tarot decks, just to kind of point everyone into the right direction of, there are legit things out here that you can use. And there's so much in the internet. There's so much on TikTok. There's just so much information. And when I first started, there's no internet. Okay. There's none. I'll admit it. But that wasn't a thing. So you had to kind of outsource, and you had to rely on your intuition, I feel like, a little bit sooner, because like now it's like, oh, I got to read this. I got to do this. Oh, this one's selling this program. And this one's, is showing you, like the manifesting. There's so many, like, manifest in 3 days, and I think that, showing, everybody that you can still do these things in a very legit way. It doesn't need to be hokey and full of, sparkles. I mean, unless you want it to be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sparkles. But I think that just making sure to have people to go to when you want some guidance is really important.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. If it's not simple, people don't have the time anymore to do it, or the energy to invest in it. And I just always feel that people are doing way more than what they know already. There's just some tweaking that they can do and understand all that, right? Like,
well, and I think it's the overthinking, we overthink everything, and get all the information fed to us now doesn't help that, because we don't have time to just be quiet with our thoughts. It's, say you want to learn tarot, you're reading this, you're reading this, you're reading that, and it gets to be overwhelming. And once you're overwhelmed, you won't usually do it, or you're just going to go by whatever this person says, but it doesn't really feel like that's how you want it to be, but you're not trusting yourself. So it's so important to just, again, and I've been seeing this so many times, it's just take the time to learn the basic things, because that's your foundation, and you need to really make that strong before you start going out and everything. Like, even if you were a medium forever and ever, you still have to learn how to build the boundaries, and know how the energetics works and all of that, where, you know, and I always use COVID because that's when all the mediums and all the tarot readers, like people you never like popping out all over the place and giving a lot of misinformation. And, you know, and that was really you know, most of them are gone now. They went up, they went down, that was it. But I think that, you know, if you take the time and really learn your craft, it really makes a big difference.
Would you say that understanding who you are, I find people are so disconnected from their body that they don't understand how their intuition is actually giving those signs. And so then there's a disconnect from how they're receiving the information or feeling the information. And then they don't understand discernment in it. Is this the right course? Is this the right teacher? So can you talk a little bit about those two things?
Yeah.
Discernment, especially.
Yeah. I mean, that's always a very big one. And unfortunately, like as a society, we're kind of taught like, this is how we're supposed to feel about this. And this is how we're supposed to feel about that. And so it dampens your intuition. And even though you have that gut feeling that maybe you want to go, you know, left, but everything is saying you're supposed to go right, you're going, you know, a lot of people are like, all right, well, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe, you know, you're not giving yourself enough credit. So it's that stepping back from all the noise. And again, just being quiet with your thoughts. And what are your thoughts? What's popping through your head right now? Like, write it down, think about it, take some time with it. Where are you feeling it in your body? Does it make you a little bit anxious? Does it, you know, like, does it make your legs kind of cramp up because you're just everything tensing? Why is that happening? So I think learning how to build that intuition, because it's a muscle. So you have to build it like a muscle. And if you think of it that way, it makes it a little bit easier. So, you know, when you're just going along with what everyone else is doing, that's kind of like, you know, like seeing an exercise guru and thinking that if you just watch them for 10 minutes a day, you're going to get in shape, right? You're watching it, you're seeing what's going on, but you're not actually doing the work. So that's what it comes down to as well. It's doing the work. And then in doing the work, which some people also get scared of doing, is they are quiet with their thoughts. Some people are very afraid to be alone with their thoughts because of the things that come up. So instead of, you know, just maybe dealing with that or seeing what's even there, because a lot of times it's not as scary as you even think it is, they push it all down and they just move on. Oh, I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to push it away and I'm going to keep going. But if you want to step into your energy, step into your magic, start paying attention to what's going on and using that, manipulating the energy to manifest, then you need to kind of work on that. You need to see what's popping up. What are these shadowy aspects of yourself that maybe that you've been pushing aside for a really long time? And what's in there? You know, dive into it. And I always say, like, making friends with the monster under the bed, because once you go under that bed, you realize it's a tiny little pipsqueak, you know, like it seems like it's so huge, but it's really just this little tiny thing. And it takes time again. And that's another thing, because we are just quick, go, learn this, move on, learn this, move on. And it really does, you know, you do have to slow yourself down. And sometimes that's the hardest part.
The slowing down, for sure.
Yeah, slowing yourself down.
Yeah. And once you get it, and the slowing down is all breath work, which you can do in that. Once you really practice that breath work, you take that big breath, you can roll it and you can feel yourself calming. And it's a practice. It's called practice for a reason.
Exactly. And it's never going to end. And you're not going to, you know, everybody's like, I'm the master of this, I'm the master of that. You know, I've heard people, I'm a tarot master and I'm a Reiki, you know, this. I mean, there is a Reiki master, so that's a bad example. But, you know, it's not worrying about becoming the master of something. It's more of becoming who you are and being comfortable with who you are and being comfortable enough to use your energy, to use your magic in the way that you want and for you. Because we're also, again, even especially as women, conditioned to take care of everyone else and not worry about ourselves. We'll take care of ourselves later. But you can't manifest, use intention, use, intuition, any of those things if you aren't taking care of yourself. So that's another really big aspect that a lot of people have trouble with. And I've had people like, well, okay, that's great with all that stuff, but let's get to the magic. Let's do some spells. Let's do this. And it's like, you can go ahead, but it's really just a show pony at that point. Nothing's going to happen for you. Like nothing, right. It's not going anywhere. You're just going to be moving some things around and lighting some candles because you didn't take that time. And it's so hard because that's not what people want to hear. And when you're, and that's why we have those programs out there, like manifest in 3 days, learn your intuition in 2 weeks, and all of that, because that's what they're making. They know that you want to do it quick. So they're using that as their sales tactic to get you in there. But once you get in there, you're going to realize that if you don't slow down, if you don't learn the basics, if you don't learn about yourself, if you don't start touching on those shadowy parts of yourself and understanding them, then it's going to fall flat. And the thing is, with working with your shadowy aspects too, sometimes there is some really cool things about yourself that you don't even know about that are there. And that can even be gifts. There's people that I know that because I've done some talks on shadow work before, and they really dove into it. And some of them were mediums. Some of them were very psychic, but it was so blocked, and they weren't giving it that space that they didn't even know it until they tackled that. So it's kind of like give yourself a chance. And once you give yourself a chance, everything starts to fall into place.
Yeah. And it's magical. People don't realize that they're already in co-creation every minute of the day. In every minute of the day, you're in co-creation. And
it's already there. It's just a matter of you taking a breath and opening your eyes to see it and see that it's there and it's all around you. It's within you. And you can do all these things. You don't need to be, Susie psychic, super duper, antennas coming out of your ears for these things to happen, but it does take work. It does take work. And that's, I think once you realize that, just like, again, going back to the exercise example, if you want to go do, bodybuilding shows, you're not going to just walk into a bodybuilding show and jump on stage. It's months and months of dedication, hard work. And even that's learning a lot about yourself and testing your limits and seeing what works for you and what doesn't. It's kind of like along the same lines of that.
Great. I'm just going to pop in. There's some folks just joining us in here as well to say hello. Hi, Pam. Thank you so much for being here. Erin, thank you for being here. And I love that your mom used to have a PT Cruiser too. That was what died on me this week. But it's fixed now, and I just have to get my PT Cruiser convertible. I love my car.
Oh, my friend had one of those.
It's so fun. It's just fun.
Cheryl Smith, and she loved it.
Yep, me too. I love it. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here. Carrie, it's nice to see you as always. Diane Vandenberg, thank you so much for popping in and saying hello. But I love that you mentioned shadow work. For those people who may not understand or are just starting this journey, could you talk a little bit about what shadow work actually is? And then how is it different applying it to the lunar cycles or using lunar cycles and doing shadow work and incorporating tarot? How does that all work? If you could speak a little about that.
Yes. Okay. So with shadow work, is basically the things about yourself that you don't want to deal with. And that could be as little as, which, wow, okay, everybody's like, no, thank you. Okay, never mind, Jen. So what that could be, though, say that even, it could be as easy as something as like, maybe you're a little extra snarky, right? Which you might be a Scorpio, but I love you anyway. And
I love Scorpios. I'm a Scorpio moon.
Yes, that's my husband. He has a Scorpio moon too. So you gotta love it. But there's that little snarkiness that can kind of pop up sometimes, and so that can be considered a shadowy aspect. And is it bad? No, it's a part of yourself. It's the yin, the yang, the black, the white. It's all of that, you know, and then it could kind of go deeper into some sort of trauma or some sort of things that have happened to you in your life. Now, when you first start doing any sort of shadow work, you know, you always have to discern whether or not it's something that is so deep that maybe you need to seek medical help, a medical professional. Don't ever try to do anything really big by yourself. It's never a good idea, and I don't recommend that. And I am a nurse, so I can say that as a medical professional as well. So, you know, this is more of like, say that, you know, there's one example, there's this exercise I always do, is think of a person that annoys the hell out of you. Who is somebody that you're just like, every time you're around this person, you're just like, oh, you just annoy me, right? So think about that person. I'll give you a moment. Think about that person. Think about their traits. Think about what it is that annoys you, right? Well, a lot of times that's a reflection of yourself. So then those traits that annoy you in that person might be traits that you have. And that's why they're bugging you, because you're like, you're seeing them kind of live action in somebody else. So that's something that to think about, to maybe dive into. So that is, it's a very like shadow work. We could talk about that for hours and hours. So that's just a very small thing. But when you're learning energy work, when you're learning how to manifest, when you're learning about the lunar cycles, when you're learning about any of these things, all of these little aspects that you don't necessarily love, or maybe these little bits of trauma that show up, they're there for a reason, and they're showing up to teach you something. They're showing up because maybe you need to give it attention and like process it a little bit, think about it, journal on it, and then you can just put it away. You don't have to jump headfirst into anything. You know, if you have a very big trauma, you're not going to dive into that dark, deep hole, and I don't recommend it. But you can kind of skim the edges, right? Like you can be like, okay, yes, this happened to me. This is how, you know, I feel. And just think of it as like, you know, even as a whole, and you're just standing on the very, very edge of it, even if you're like 5 feet away of it in your head as you're visualizing it, but you're like poking it with a really big stick and being like, okay, let me understand these feelings. Why are these feelings here? And go back and do it again. Go back and do it again, because what it does is it lessens the, you know, the startling feeling that you get. And then once that settles down, like you didn't even jump in that hole, but you visit the edge, okay, it's a little softer. And then before you know it, something else is opening up in you, and you're like, oh, okay, I moved through that enough at this time. Now, if something like that happens and you can't move away from it, or it's got really, really badly triggering, again, always seek help. But I think that when working with the lunar phases, each lunar phase has an energy with it. So the lunar phases, I'm talking about the full moon, the new moon, the quarter moon, all of those things. And so with each one is a different energy. So if you're working with your shadow and you track the lunar cycles, you know, okay, so first quarter moon is big action. So we're talking about that deep, dark hole, right? Maybe that's the day that you poke it with a stick a little bit and journal about how you feel. But you might go through the cycle, and we'll say you're at the waning crescent moon or the dark moon. Okay, that's your rest and reflection time. You know what? Let's put all this shadowy stuff down and let's practice some self-care, because you did all this work and you're awesome and you deserve it. So by knowing and learning the different phases of the moon, you can really work with it with anything. And that could be what you're manifesting for that lunar cycle. So all of the phases put together is a lunar cycle. And so if you want to do that, you can do that. When you're manifesting, it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be an object. You don't need to manifest a car. I mean, Carrie Lynn, you might have to do that, but
nope, mine is all fixed. So I can still drive my PT Cruiser. But in a year from now,
yeah. But again, it doesn't need to be like something huge, and it can be your health. It could be a whole cycle about maybe sleeping better, getting more exercise, cleaning and organizing your house by the moon phases is a great way to get it organized, because it basically tells you what to do each phase. So it gives you that like that map. And once you understand the cycles, once you understand the phases, and then you can really make like, and I talk about that in my book, like a moon manifesting map, and use it for anything. It's kind of really a wash repeat thing. The moon's coming back every month, every 28 days ish. So you know that, okay, well, maybe this month I'll do this month I'll do that. And you have options, and keeping it simple is so important. Like, you know, we mentioned before, you don't have to get overcomplicated with it. As you're going along and you are really familiar with the moon, you know, the phases, then you can start getting complicated with it. It's whatever you want to do, but it's there. It's an energy that's always there. Like the moon's there no matter what. So why not use it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And applying tarot to it.
Yes. So
the lunar phases with manifesting.
Yeah, you know, with shadow work and tarot work wonderfully together, because it's kind of like a different perspective on a situation. So say you're, you know, we'll go back to the example of the person that's really annoying you, and you really want to work through that. You're like, you know, now that I realize that maybe it's parts of myself, what can I do to move past that? And pulling some tarot cards is like a whole nother perspective and gives you maybe another avenue to try, or advice that you wouldn't have thought of. And it's basically your higher self talking to you, right? There are times that you can use tarot to talk to spirit and that sort of thing, but that's down the line. I mean, right now you want to keep it simple. Again, pull some cards, and what can I do about this situation? How can I move this through this shadowy aspect? And you can, again, make another plan. And in my book, I do have a tarot card attached to each phase, just so that, number one, you can kind of get used to using tarot in your practice, and the energy of the card. And that just gives you another tool to use. All of these things are tools, and they're all here to help you live better, be a better version of yourself, the best that you want to be, and give you, you know, just that extra guidance, that extra nudge, because sometimes tarot will call you out. You know, you're wanting.
It always does.
It always does. You know, I mean, sometimes you pull a card like, oh, should I go meet up with so and so, and basically you pull a card that's like, nah, and you're like, but, and you pull another card, and it's pretty much the same thing. You reshuffle, you get the same card again. That's what happens. It always happens. So that's definitely, you know, something that is really great about using tarot and using these other tools. And when using them through the lunar phases, it's really cool too, because you want to always be doing some sort of action steps. And I'm really big on that, because if you're trying to manifest something and you just wish it, you know, you just say it into existence, it's just a wish, nothing's going to happen. So once you attach action steps to it, that's when you're actually actively manifesting, because you're doing the work. You're letting the universe know you're ready to receive. And that's when things open up and energy shifts. You're moving energy because you're trying to pave a way. And by taking those action steps, you're doing that. So having tarot through the moon, you know, the phases is really helpful, because it can help you create those action steps. Like, say, you know, for the full moon in my book is about balance. You know, the letting go and bringing stuff in. And I have the sun and the moon card. So we know at that point, like, okay, the moon card is kind of a shadowy card. It's the stuff that we kind of keep hidden. We don't want others to see. Whereas the sun card, just like your signs in the zodiac, the moon sign is what that part of you, that emotional part of you that you keep hidden from people, or you only show to people who you're really close to. And then the sun is the part that everyone sees. That's when you look up your horoscope, that's the sign you look for. So I'm a Libra sun. So when you go to the horoscope, I would look for Libra. But I do have an Aries moon. So it's, you know, and these are all things that you can find very easily online. There's a lot of zodiac calculators to find, like, what's my moon. If you just put in what's my moon sign, you can find that, my sun sign, and all of that. It's super easy to find. I do talk about it in my book. a little bit, not a ton, it's a little bit, but just enough for you to kind of move along with the manifesting and all of that. So by knowing these things, it's also learning about yourself. And then you're able to, again, you know what you want better when you know yourself better.
100% agreed. So a couple of different things. Folks, you know how much I love my friend Joni Templeton Skinner. So she is a forensic astrologist. And so she does a lot of really cool things and has Astrology, the series, the group. So if you want to check her out, she gives so much information to you guys if you're wanting to learn more about all of those. You can head to, folks, the book that Jen, it just came out too, didn't it? Like
in February.
Yeah, in February. So Manifesting by the Moon, a guide to lunar magic. You can head to Stardust Wanderer Tarot.com. Just making sure that we say it out loud for the folks that are just audio listening, and which is 80% of our audience. We don't want them to miss out on those opportunities. So we'll just make sure that we keep for them. And we'll bring this up, Carrie. This is super funny. I'm so glad that you're here today. She is more organized on shadow work than I am. I don't pay attention to any cycles, just what is happening and what shite do I need to remove here, and then pulls a random tarot card spread. But at least you're doing it.
Yes, you're at least you're doing it. See, I have to teach it, so I have to be organized. That keeps me organized. But, you know, so again, fun. As long as you're doing it, that's all that matters. And again, we're just giving you all the tools that you can use to make your, you know, and tarot spreads are great.
It's a start.
Yeah, I have a ton of tarot spreads in the book. I post a ton of tarot spreads on Instagram. So I'm all about that. If that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. I'm happy that you're even doing that.
Heidi Gould, thank you so much for being here. She is saying lunar magic is right up my alley. Okay, and the action steps, I had some realize it's your thoughts, words, deeds, actions, all of it. You can have the intention, but if you are just going to be like sitting in the armchair and, you know, scrolling through social media feeds, nothing's going to shift and change, right? We have to move the energy somehow.
Yeah, you got to make room. You have to, you know, and the universe is there, right? And the universe doesn't care whether you do it or you don't do it, or you want or you don't want. It's just there. And so if you're like, okay, universe, I want this to happen, and you don't do anything about it and you don't shift energy, then it's just going to keep moving along like it has been. But once you're shifting that energy and it's like, oh, there's like a disturbance in the force. Let's see what's going on over here, you know? And it's like, oh, all right, Carrie Lynn, she just did all this shadow work. She took all these action steps. All right, well, let's direct some stuff towards her way. And that's, you know, that's just what happens. So, you know, and again, that's just learning to, and you learn to understand yourself so much better. And a lot of times as you're going through this, like if you're doing the book and you're going through your intentions and setting the intentions, which in the part 1 of the book, it's basically about building a practice, and it teaches you about spell work, about intention making, how to do it, exercises. There's like over 125 exercises, tarot spreads, spell work, ritual, everything in there. So there's like a little bit of everything. It's like a charcuterie board of moon.
I have a question about that. Because there is a lot, and folks, like I know that, you know, our regular folks that join us in the chat will see like the background's different because I'm in the Allenford house and not the Guelph house. I'm up at James's. So, which I did purchase the book, and I do think it's brilliant. I really love it. And the way that you have incorporated all of that, from the lunar cycles to the spell work. And again, even the spell work is simple. And I appreciate that for folks that are exhausted, keeping things simple. It makes them, you know, encouraged. It's encouraging them. So that was one of the questions I wrote for you, is how did you decide spells or rituals or exercises would be both magical and useful and resonate for people to want to incorporate, to take the steps into starting their practice? So how did you discern?
So, you know, a lot of it is stuff that I do. It's stuff that I do, you know, it's stuff that you know, I have honed over the years. And even when I was actively doing readings for people, stuff that I had created for them that seemed to work, you know? So it was a lot of trial and error. And, you know, some of the ones I did make up just for the book, but I have 4 boys. So you know, we own a business. There's time is not like a thing for me. So it's one of the, you know, I want to do things. I wanted to be able to do things in the book that were quick to do, practical. You can go in your kitchen cabinet and get most of what you need. And if it's not out there, go outside and get it. And whatever's outside, just utilize that.
I have a thought about that. I agree with, so I have 4 kiddos as well too. So I have 3 boys and 1 girl. And when she was younger, I used to say that I would have 10 more to her because she was very passionate about everything. And they're adults now, and I'm a grandma and a queenie, so I get called Queenie. Yeah, which is super fun. But it is. I think with oh my gosh, where was I going to go? So I just went sideways with this. I just totally had a perimenopausal foggy brain kick in.
I love it.
I think that so with the spell work, or with even calling yourself witchy or the witchy woo stuff, you know, people have, whether it is from pop culture or belief systems, those hurdles that they need to move past, and recognizing that it's all energy. You don't have to feel like you are doing something that's creating this bad karma. It gets all mishmashed in people's heads, you know, about the idea about doing spell work, and when you show them that it's moving the Chihuahua brain overthinking energy into something that is working for you, and how quickly that can, once you redirect, how this just becomes this magic. How do you encourage people to move past the Chihuahua brain and just try?
You know, and it takes time. Again, I'm going to say that again. It takes time, and giving yourself that grace is so important. And starting small. Start with small little things. And again, things are going to pop up along the way that are like, so maybe you watched a movie with a witch in it and she was evil and terrible and all of those things. And you're like, but I don't want to be that. You don't have to be that. You get to define your practice. You get to define how you look, how you present yourself. There's plenty of witchy people that I know that honestly, you know, you wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't even know it because they don't have the aesthetic, you know. You don't have to do that. You don't, I mean, if you want to, absolutely, but you don't have to. And you can really just make it your own and stop worrying about everybody else and what they're thinking and how they're thinking you should look and be, you know, just get your lane, build up some nice, you know, boundaries and just go for it. And, you know, again, start small. You're not going to jump into full ritual, you know, a month after starting your practice. It's learning, taking the time to learning about yourself. You know, and there is going to be messy parts to it. And I think that's so important to let people know. It's not all, you know, again, it's not all the sparkles and the aesthetic pictures and all of those things. You know, I post stuff online, but I'm messy. And I'm telling you, I ruin so many keyboards by doing like spells when I'm teaching online because I'm like throwing stuff everywhere. So don't worry about what you think it's supposed to be. Concentrate more on what you want it to be. If you in the perfect world, how would you like your practice to look? How would you like, you know, okay, some people are like, well, I'd like to be more elaborate. Well, work yourself up to that. Some people are like, I want to do a one and done. Just like our friend here was like, I'm doing a tarot spread and I'm out of there. Totally fine. But again, you're doing it. You're doing the work. When the messy stuff pops up, stop. Take a minute, give it some attention, because if you don't give that stuff attention, that shadowy part, it's just going to keep popping up and it's going to get louder and it's going to get bigger to where you can't even avoid it. Where a year ago, you really could have just squashed it in a couple of tarot readings and some journaling. And, you know, again, if it's something so big that you can't, then of course, you know, you want to outsource that a little bit. But, and, you know, it's not, it's not love and light and aliens and all of that. It's just not. And and people are on there, and I'm gonna do light language and blah, 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 and you're fixed. I sent you codes and you're fixed, and you don't have what the hell they're talking about. So I think that really deciding what it means to you, what if you want to call yourself a witch at some point, what does that word mean? Yeah. What does that word mean? And that in itself is a shadow exercise, because like you said, there's all these things you see in the movies and all your preconceived notions, and we have them because we've lived up until this point. So we've seen and heard and all that. And it's also deciding that, okay, well, when people ask me the question, why are you a witch? Why do you do that stuff? Take time to get yourself a nice short answer. That is one tip I'll have for you. Unless somebody's asking really good questions, like obviously on here, we talk about that, but there's people out in the wild that will, if you happen to say it, then they start asking all these crazy questions. And, I think just having that, you don't need to answer all the questions. Just because you decide to do this doesn't mean you need to answer everybody's crazy questions. You answer what you want, and again, setting those boundaries is really important. And it's very powerful when you can do that. You could be like, you know what, I appreciate your question, but I don't feel comfortable answering that, and just leave it, because we want to please. And sometimes we're like, oh, we have to answer this question, but it makes me uncomfortable. Why are you doing that to yourself? There's no need. Just be like, you know what, this isn't really the time to talk about that. If you really want to talk to me, email me. And because they're not. They're not going to take that. I mean, some people might, but for the most part, nobody's taking the time to send you a long email asking you questions. So it's a good way to kind of push up, because the only thing that's going to happen if you get somebody who's really not being respectful, it's going to just make you feel a certain way. Get in front of that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to answer those questions. Just like, that rolls into if you're doing a reading for somebody and they're not being respectful or the energy's off. Know your boundaries. Know when you're like, okay, I think that, this reading's over now, and maybe I can outsource you to someone else. Maybe you have to refund them. Who knows? And that does happen. And knowing that happens and that you will get things wrong. Sometimes you'll do spell work for a certain thing, but something else happened and you're like, whoa, that's not what was supposed to happen. But it probably happened for a reason, or you didn't have a solid intention and you thought you wanted it and you didn't. So again, it's taking that, going back to the drawing board. Okay, well, this didn't work out. What was I thinking when I lit that candle? What was I thinking when I, was putting cinnamon on the plate? Because all those things matter.
Yeah. I have a very funny story about that. When my daughter was young, we had moved quite far. It was like 9 hours away, right, from where we were. And so she was in grade 4. And we moved into an area that was predominantly Italian Catholic, but it was a public school that she was going to. And so it was in November, and she's talking to, the teachers engaging conversation, and they're talking about traditions and Christmas and different things like that. At the time, Brooklyn had little friends that she had gotten prior to us moving, where it was like full moon club. So on the full moon club, then they would make like eye pillows, and they made a wand, and she was like, so it was a way of initiating those things. So we get up there, and they're talking to the teachers, getting the class to engage in Christmas traditions and things that they do, and talking about their backgrounds, right? So most of them are saying Catholic, we go to mass on Christmas Eve, we do all of these things. And so my daughter pipes up and says that she is Wiccan. Now, I have never said that we are Wiccan. It's such a mishmash in our house when they were younger, right? So that they could just and they could incorporate it as they got older. Whatever they wanted to do is kind of how I had approached things in our house. But she blurts out that she is Wiccan in grade 4 in an Italian.
It's so specific too.
Yeah. And so she comes home and she's crying and she's like, Mom, I am never going to get invited to birthday parties. Why? This is just the worst thing ever. So it initiated this conversation of, what's comfortable for you and learning to read the room and what you share and how you incorporate that. And I don't think she would ever tell anybody that she's looking now. I don't even know if there's a label to any of us, right? In what we do, because it's all of those things. But it was a very interesting very interesting lesson, in how people, what they associate, right? And
no, it is absolutely. And I think, again, it's and as an adult, we can usually read the room a little bit, but again, it's also it's trusting your intuition. Like, trust your gut. If you feel like that, this line of questioning, or if you're in a room and people are like, what is it that you practice? If you're not comfortable saying it, or you're afraid for backlash, then, it's really thinking about how you can come across, like what you can say that you're comfortable with. Because if you don't have to label yourself, there's people that practice magic, energy work, all of that, but they're not comfortable with the word witch. They're just not going to be ever. So that's fine too. I mean, if you need something, I'm very eclectic in what I do. I don't practice one certain thing. But there's people that I know that are just say they're pagan, or they, nature is their religion, or that kind of sort of thing. Or even if you want to use that again, but even the word religion, like some people are like, oh, I don't want to use that word. Why? Think about it. Think about what
do you feel for people moving into incorporating this as a practice, would you encourage them to understand their background? Important is understanding ancestry and making those connections to what their ancestors may have done, and incorporating or connecting with their ancestors and that heritage.
I think that it's always interesting if they have access to that. It's always interesting to look into that if you're able to see and see if it resonates with you. You don't have to work with your ancestors, or you can choose who you work with. And a lot of people worry about working with ancestors because the lineage is not the greatest, and some of us, some of our ancestors were doing some crazy stuff, and people are like, oh, well, and it doesn't need to be immediate. It doesn't need to be grandma, grandpa, great aunt Joan. It doesn't need to be any of those things. It can go back, or, you can even just go, as far back. And that, again, using tarot for that, meditating, all of those things, or just harnessing, if you're Italian, maybe looking and just studying, reading about it, studying about it. That's really important to understand. What did they practice then? What did, and a lot of them are pagan type nature practices. And a lot of them, most pagan religions way back when used the moon as their guide, because they didn't have clocks, and that was their clock. That's what they used. So as you're tapping into that, I know a lot of people who want to do ancestor work, but they won't, because they know that maybe some of their ancestors weren't the greatest. They do some DNA searches and they're like, oh my gosh, my, DNA, this great grandpa so-and-so, he was not a good guy. Or, my grandparents, they were very abusive and I don't want anything to do with them. You get to choose. So your magical practice is like a choose your own adventure book. And if you don't know what that is, it's a book that you read a story, and then it says, like, if you want to go in the spaceship, turn to page 52. If you want to go up the stairs, turn to page 40. And you get to choose. And as you move along and choose that adventure. That's basically what your magical practice is. You get to do that. You get to choose who you work with. And again, even I'm sure, you can speak on that too, is even when you're a medium, who you get to choose who you're talking to, like, you don't have to give everybody attention, because if you're giving them all attention all the time, you're going to be exhausted. So it's, again, those boundaries, just like in your physical world and in your spiritual world, you need boundaries, and you get to choose who you work with. So say you found some great Aunt Hilda on your mother's side, that she was this magical person, whatever, and you decide, to work with her, and you start working with her and you're like, I don't like this energy. Then you cut it off. You know what? Thank you very much. We're done here. And you move on. So knowing that you're not going to be stuck working with people you don't want to work with, that you get to choose that, I think is really important to know, because when a lot of people I know, they won't do it because of that. But I always, I'm all about research. I'm all about learning. I'm all about reading. Read about your history and where you come from, and the land. Really, I think more than anything is thinking about the land, because the land has so much to tell. Like, you want magic, you go to the land of your ancestors. That's where the magic is, not so much even in the spirit or the people. So those are just some things to think about and try. And I always say, try it. Always try all the things. Some are going to work, some aren't going to work. But you know what? As you're moving along in your journey, you might meet someone and you can tell them, oh, I tried this. It didn't work for me, but maybe it would work for you. And that's why you did it. There's a reason. There's a reason why. So I always say, try all the things, because you can stop at any point. It's up to you. You're not going to all the things, and that's it.
That's so fun. I use that analogy all the time too, like a choose your own adventure story. I use that analogy all the time.
I use it all the time. I did have one person. They're like, well, what is that? I was like, oh
my goodness.
You're
I know, it's painful. I know, painful.
I'm like, okay, let me explain.
So the moon as a guide for manifesting, where do people maybe go sideways before they begin? What do you notice?
Again, it's overthinking it. Like, oh my gosh, I have all these moon phases. What am I going to do with each one? I'm going to have to get all this stuff for the spell work. I'm going to have to do all these things. So in my book, on the second part, it's called The Work, that each phase has its own chapter. And in that chapter, it tells you it's kind of the moon science of it. And it has, the tarot card, it has meditations, it has spell work, it has goddesses, it has all of these things. So you can decide what you want to do. I mean, right out of the gate, probably won't want to do all of it. That's a lot, but some people are super committed. So, like I would say my Capricorns would be like, oh yeah, I'm doing every single thing. I always call the Capricorns the CEO of the Zodiac, because they're always large and in charge and they have it set. So going through it, just reading through it and, deciding, okay, I'm going to try this out. Just maybe do one thing, even if you do the tarot, even if you do the spell work or the meditation, then kind of build on that. Start small. That's really my, for everything. It's just start small. Don't jump in head first into this big, huge vat of all the things, because you're going to get overwhelmed. That's what we're trying. When I wrote the book, I wanted to avoid overwhelm. I wanted you to do it. Again, done is better than perfect. And I say that all the time. I'd rather you do a wonky spell on the new moon than not do it at all. Because you know what, no matter what, you did an action and you're moving energy. And it may not have went the way you wanted, but you're still doing stuff. And maybe that energy needed to move in a certain way that you didn't even realize. And so as you move along, if you get halfway through the moon cycle, say you get yourself to that first quarter moon, again, I talked about, it's the kind of the big action phase. And you're like, you know what? I don't really know if this is what I want as an intention anymore. We'll go back to the car. I don't know if I really need this car right now. I think I might want to wait another month. What do? I just started and now I had this intention. Change it. It's that easy. Don't overthink it. Because, you, even in those first three phases that you went through, you did work and you changed energy and realized that you didn't need that right now. So change that intention and just keep going. If you do get overwhelmed and you're like, okay, this is too much, then stop. Skip a phase or two. Jump back in even at the last quarter moon for the last big push. And then go there. You get to decide what you want to do and just get the flow of it down and see where you can fit in. Maybe getting your altar situated, doing maybe the affirmations, get those on your phone, get a moon app on your phone, see where you can fit it into your everyday life so that you can work it into your routine. And before you know it, you see that oh yeah, here's my affirmations. Oh, it's full moon. I got to change my affirmations to my full moon affirmations. And then you just get into the habit of it. It's creating a habit. So a habit takes 21 days. and the moon cycle's 28 days. So that's basically what you're doing, is you're creating new habits. But with the moon phases, you have a plan, because you know each energy, and it tells you in the book what exactly energy, what types of action steps you need to create. And you have tarot to use that. You have journaling to create them and figure it out if that's what you really want. So there's just so many just tools and things at your disposal to use, but you don't have to use them all at once.
And those small steps build, those taking small steps will build that confidence and clarity, you know, like it just starts to build all of that stuff up. So, you know, the little steps are important.
Right. They're the most important, because without those little steps and without clearing out those little things, like again, the car example, you know, maybe your credit isn't the greatest. So you're going to just take time to go through and get your credit report, go through it, maybe making sure your, you know, bank account is where it needs to be. And it seems like such meaningless, like all those things that you super adulting things you don't want to do. But as you do that, again, you're clearing energy and you're clearing that out. And it's like, oh, okay, it's all organized now. And you're moving along, and okay, I got my, you know, I got approved for a car that's maybe a couple grand more than I thought I did, that I could, because I cleared all this stuff out. And now I can do that. So you did that work, and that action, all those little actions led up to a bigger action. And that would be at the end, purchasing your car or getting to that point anyway.
Yeah. And when you get in that flow, it's really wonderful. And you can see how quickly you manifest, and how quickly you can, you know, if you get off kilter with that energy, how quickly it can fall apart and go sideways, and how you can bring it back into alignment really quickly again. Like you really do feel empowered in stepping forward and understanding your co-creation with the universe. David, that's is saying, David, thank you so much for being here. It's good to see your name in the chat. So good theme given the recent launch. So that was all part of the moon cycle too. Yeah. So, okay, what did I want to, oh, right. I wanted to ask you about certain goals or desires with the moon magic. Does it support like certain ones more than others? So I went off script, but I'll read it. So are certain goals or desires that the moon magic supports as well, and others that require a different type of work?
I think if I'm getting what you're saying, there doesn't need to be any specific type of work to work with the moon. Like you can use it for anything. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Like
kind of. Yeah, for sure. Is there certain cycles, I guess, where, you know, like if you were
okay, I see what you're saying. So really, once I do recommend it first, just working through the moon phase, like something smaller, right? And once you get used to that and the flow of the phases and the energy of the phases, then you can start incorporating the zodiac. So I do talk about that in the advanced chapter. And that is a really, like, if you want to start like really like zip lining into what you want. So for example, I don't know what our next new moon, let me look. That would be, because I have my moon app, look, my handy dandy moon app right on my phone. Definitely recommend.
Which moon app do you recommend?
So
because people will ask.
Yeah, let me just see. I just want to see with this real quick. Because if I don't look, I'll forget what I'm talking about. Okay. Oh, we have new moon in Aries. Oh, that's my moon. So I'm
there you go.
So it's a new moon in Aries. So
that's an action one in itself. That's action.
So yes. And which I thought it was, but I had to double check because sometimes. So this app that I use is I think it's just called Moon app. So with the new moon in Aries coming up, now that we know that it's in Aries, Aries is a very fiery sign. It's the first sign of the zodiac. So basically it's kind of like the new year starting over again and with the zodiac. So this is a great one for big action. And this is one that, like, if you want to do something big, then this new moon is really one to do. And it's very fiery. So like something you're really passionate about. Do you want to start a new creative endeavor? Do you want to start a new business? Maybe there's somebody that you want to deepen a relationship with, and you really want it to be like a passionate relationship. And that can be friend or, not. It could be, boyfriend, friend, whatever. But it's whatever you want it to be. So it's knowing that, okay, well, this is the energy we're going into for this new moon. So you can incorporate that in. And I'm trying to see what moon phase. I just use, it's called moon phases and lunar calendar. Oh, and I have to update it. Like, it just looks like that. It's just got a moon, and it just says moon phases and lunar calendar. And I like that. I like this one because I just keep it right on my top screen of my phone, and it tells me exactly what it's in, what it's doing. So we're at 97% waning gibbous right now in Scorpio. That Scorpio moon's popping up again. So
Moon.
yeah. So if you want to, I do recommend working just without the zodiac at first, just so you can get used to the flow and kind of know what's going to work for you or not work for you and all of that good stuff. And then you can really start diving into that and seeing, even as you look into each phase, if you really want to get into it, okay, well, we got the new moon in Aries, and then it moves into waxing crescent. Okay, well, these are the action steps I have to take for waxing crescent. And it's in the sign of, we'll say, Taurus. So Taurus is very grounded energy. It's very home, hearth energy. So what in my home can I do that is going to support my intention with kind of like a Taurus flavor? So that might be, all right, well, you're trying to bring in passion into your life. Maybe you're going to tidy up or get some nice fluffy pillows for your room, or your favorite chair or something like that. So it's, again, you can use all the tools that are in the book, all of the action, suggestions and all of that to really kind of formulate a very detailed plan when you're ready for that. And that's, what's really cool about it. And then you can do it again. And the more you do it, the more used to knowing what the zodiac signs are. I do list all the zodiac signs in the back and explain them. I think I do a spell for each of them. There's
a lot
rituals in there. Yeah, there's exercises for new moon. And this is really funny. I turn to the Scorpio new moon.
See?
It is hanging out today. So for the exercise for the Scorpio new moon is meeting your dark side ritual. So it's a very easy ritual to kind of meet up with your shadowy self. And again, it's very easy. So what you need for it is a pinch of loose leaf tea, a teacup, water. So it's kind of like a tea leaf type situation, a spoon, a dish, a journal. And then it tells you what to do. But see how those ingredients, you can get those anywhere, right? You could just get a tea bag, rip it open, and there you have some loose leaf tea, right? It doesn't need to be hard, and you can do this, and you can do it effectively. It doesn't need to be complicated to be effective. And I think that's something that some people forget.
Agreed. I'm just going to take some time to do our station ID now. So if you are just joining us, thank you so much for being here. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard, and I'm your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. You are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. If you would like to find out more about the shows and hosts that UPRN has to offer, you can head to uprntalkradio.com. There are thousands and thousands of archives for you to access. There's something for everyone. It is not all high strangeness and paranormal. Today's guest is Jen Sankey. We are talking about moon manifesting by the moon. A guy. Oh, did we freeze for a second?
We did freeze for a second, right at the end.
Well, thank you. It's been a great conversation so far. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. No, that's great.
So a question that I had when we just, before I did the station ID, we were talking about the Scorpio new moon, and you read some of the ritual for that. So have you noticed, or how would it shift with eclipses, supermoons, highly charged lunar, moments? Does that manifesting, or using tarot alongside those moon moments or experiences shift or change, or is there recurring themes attached to them? What are your thoughts?
So I do have a whole chapter on all of that, for sure. And honestly, using tarot works with everything for us. always use tarot. But it's also really good to help kind of clear out the clutter. Like if you start getting a little overwhelmed, or you feel like, you can always pull a card to kind of redirect you. So no matter what, when you're doing any of this work, if you do get overwhelmed, that's a great quick redirection, is just pull a card. And just listen to whatever it is, and that's it. Don't keep pulling a million cards, because then you're going to have a whole deck laying around, and it's going to be chaos. But the topic of eclipses and all of that, mostly eclipses, is a very hot topic, and people have very, very strong opinions about that. So basically, I like to explain eclipses like a two-way radio, right? We have, the moon energy, and it's just going, we're playing our nice little 1920s tune, right? And then the eclipse comes by, whether it's solar, lunar, whatever. All that it does is it turns that dial up a little bit. It just kind of gives it a little extra boost. So you're boosting that energy a little bit. And a lot of people will be like, don't do moon water, don't manifest, don't do magic during the eclipse moons. It's chaos, and the chaotic things will happen, and all of that. No. And it's such a thing. It won't, because we know it's happening. Usually chaotic things happen to us because they're unexpected. And it's like this unexpected energy, like, whoa, that just came out of nowhere. And what the heck's happening? Right. And oh my gosh, right? We know that there's going to be an eclipse. You can plan for that. Again, try it. See how it works for you. If you're like, oh, whatever, it's fine, go with it. If you do it and you still need to do a little maybe shadow work around it, maybe it's just a little overwhelming, then don't do it. It's not going to change. You can still keep going along your intention cycle as you were, and it's not going to change anything. Again, you're allowing that energy in or not. So if you want to work with that energy, I think it's great. It's like a little boost, and you can kind of direct that even to something specific. Like if, the full moon's coming and there's an eclipse, then you can maybe focus on something that you're trying to release, but it's been kind of stuck. So you're sending that little extra energy to it to try to unstuck it. Or if you do want to make moon water, which is water that you put out during the phases. So a lot of people put it out for the full moon, and it's just basically taking water in a jar, putting it on a windowsill, and it's absorbing the moon energy, and you take it at that point and you use it for different things. I always recommend to set an intention for it. Because when you give it a job, then you're more likely to use it and not just keep it sitting on your shelf because there's moon water and that's it. So I'd like to, especially if you're manifesting with that phase, or with that cycle rather, give it a job and use it. And you can use it to give your magical tools an extra boost. You can wash your hands with it before you do magical work. You can, if you make one that's for drinking, you can, in the morning, give yourself a little moon boost. Or if it's, you can, if you are setting an actual intention and planting a seed to try to grow it with your intention, which I do talk about in my book as well, you can use it to water that or water your plants or whatever you want to do with it. But I just do recommend to give it a job. Like, what are you going to do with this? Because if you just set out the water and you leave it, it's just, you're probably not going to do anything with it. But some people say that if you put that water out during the eclipse moon, like it's going to explode or something. And it's chaos water. And if you touch it, chaotic things will happen. No, none of those things. It's just going to have an extra boost. So,
or you get to see how quickly you manifest that by thinking it so much that you've created it.
Yeah, that's it. Again, your energy, you're directing it towards that.
Yeah.
And we're trying not to do that.
That's
so
right.
I think that's really important. And there are people, again, if you're online or if you're in forum, on Facebook groups and stuff, and people are like, you have to kind of remember that person, you can't source them. Some people you can, but for the most part, you can't. And a lot of times they're projecting their fears out onto the internet because they don't know what to do with them and they don't want to work with them. So if you're looking through that and someone's like, oh my God, you see it and you're like, oh no, I'm not supposed to do that. No, they're not supposed to do it. Maybe haven't done the work. It has nothing to do with you. So don't take on other people's fears that you don't have to. And if you're like, I don't know, this sounds kind of exciting, I'm going to try this out. And then looking into the zodiac, what sign it's in, then you kind of can direct if you're making moon water, like what that energy is. If say it was a new moon eclipse in we'll say Scorpio, because Scorpio's been hanging out. Then maybe that you're going to use that when you're doing some shadow work. Maybe you're going to use that when you need to speak up and set boundaries. You might just wipe your hands on, put it a little on your hands, or make a little like a oil diffuser, like a room spray or something, kind of do a quick spray, just like, I got to do some, create, hard conversations. Let's get some Scorpio energy in there as well.
I love Scorpio energy and moon water. Heidi Gold, thank you so much. She's sharing. I've always loved moon water, setting intentions in it. And my granddaughter loves it, along with sun water. Recently, she's into elements and puts them into water. She's 5.
Oh, that's adorable. I love it.
That's how old my granddaughter is too. She's 5.
Aww.
Telling everything, right? Like, we're in relationship with everything around us. Like, so, telling it what we're needing it to do, right down to your face cream.
Right. And that's and I'm always saying that. I'm like, anything that you're using, give it a job, because you're kind of setting a mini intention with it when you're doing that. And that's like going in the shower and saying, all right, well, I'm just cleansing all of the bad energy off, and I'm just starting fresh, or I'm infusing myself with energy and, great thoughts, or whatever it is, and it's so easy to do that people tend to skip over it because they think it's easy. Again, they don't think it's going to be effective, but a lot of times it's those little things that are effective. And, and another thing with moon water, I just want to quickly, because I just thought about, is crystals. And, oh, that's cute. Moon water to paint with. Oh, I love that.
Thank you for sharing it. Mish is chiming in from Australia, actually.
Oh, awesome. Oh, wow. Yeah. I love it. So using crystals, some people are like, oh, I want to use crystals in my moon water. And if you're going to be using it for drinking, do not do that. Do not put the crystals in there. I don't care if they tell you they're safe or not. Just please don't do that. What you can do is get a dish and just line the crystals around it, or put it right on top of the lid. Still going to get the same energy. And then you don't have to worry about all that business, because some are toxic. Some are, they say selenite melts in water. And I've seen videos that it did and some videos that it didn't. I don't know if they were altered or not. I haven't tried it myself. But point being, why even worry about it when you can just stick it right on top and still get the same energy, right?
That's right.
So that's something just to think about. You could, whatever you want to set that into, even if there's herbs that you really enjoy and you want the energy of that herb, just stick it on the outside and put them all on top. And then you could just take it off, and that's it. And then you have your water.
I love that. Mish is sharing, I have crystals and a unicorn horn made of organite and shungite, and this water has not gone moldy. That's interesting. Different kinds of gypsum. Thank you,
and just like flaky type of crystals, they're no good in water. And, because there are people that are like, oh, I put it in my water and I drink it and all of that. It is a crystal. It is, some of them are treated, some of them are not. It's just like one of those things, like, just avoid even having to worry about it. Just put it on top and that's it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to put it. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, you could, but just be mindful of that, because sometimes some people have reactions to things and they don't know until they know. And then we just try to avoid that. And maybe that's just the nurse in me. I don't know. But I have seen people have reactions to things that they thought would be fine because they're like, it's magic, and they throw it all in and then they get sick. So, you know, just be careful, pay attention to what you're doing.
I have a question about the Stardust Wanderer Tarot. So what did it teach you when you were creating this? So when you were creating this, what did it teach you about yourself that maybe reading tarot alone never could?
So the Stardust Wanderer Tarot is my first tarot deck. I self-created that. I self-published it, Kickstarter, the whole thing. That was a journey in itself, for sure. And with that deck, I didn't really know I was going to create it until all of a sudden one day. The Fool of the deck's name is Mina, and she's a demigoddess. So she's half space pirate and half moon goddess. And she just kind of showed up in my brain one day and was like, let's make a tarot deck. So after that, it's just the story of Mina and her journey. And in tarot, they have something called the Fool's Journey, which the first chunk of the cards, the major arcana cards, are kind of the big life event cards. So it's kind of a teaching tool. Like the Fool is the first card is 0, and that's the Fool. And it's kind of the Fool going through his or her life journey through the cards. And it's a great way to learn it. It's a great storytelling thing to use. And so that's kind of how it showed up for me. And so as I was writing the cards, it really helped me to learn them on a more intimate level. The symbolism, whatever characters I was putting in that card, what were they doing? Why were they there? And so that really helped me to understand tarot for myself, like how I see it and my perception of it. And then as I released it kind of out into the world, it was really cool to see how other people perceived the cards and how they use the cards and what spoke to them. So it definitely, when you're like creating any of those, it's also terrifying because it's kind of like this thing, the storyline you kind of make, it's in your head. It's all based on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So you do have kind of that guideline, but it's such, you're just getting so intimate with the cards and how it looks for you and sending it out in the world and all of that. And I was going somewhere with that and I totally lost it. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Until it pops back in my head. That happens. Oh yeah. My shirt.
Yeah.
So
I on one of the practices in the intuitive group that I mentor, we do tarot on Tuesdays, right? So Tarot Tuesday. And one of the practice, I encouraged folks to take 2 decks and blend them together. And everybody was like, oh my God, I've never even thought of that. And I'm like, how could you give yourself permission? So it comes back to like playing with things again as well too, and trying and what works and what doesn't. And I would assume even with the lunar phases, leaning into you're feeling like this tarot deck or this tarot deck, or, like each one will have its own feel for you as you begin that practice, right? But how does it change? Like, does your tarot practice change when it's used alongside the lunar cycles?
I think, depending on what my intention that I had set is, what I'm trying to kind of bring to fruition, really, I let the deck choose. It's kind of one of those things like, okay, who's going to play with me here, And so it's just picking up on that energy. And, I have my other deck is my Enchanted Forest Felines deck, which is very completely different than my Stardust Wanderer. Stardust Wanderer is very sci-fi, moon, lunar, gods and goddesses. There's space pirates. It's a whole thing. And then the Enchanted Forest Felines is very folk art, and it's very fun. And it's, I don't want to say it's more fun and childlike, but it's also very straightforward. So, but in a nicer way. So it's one of those things like, what energy are we playing with? And I think by letting the deck choose too, like who wants to play for this cycle, is also helps direct what energy that you're going to really lean into. Maybe, you know, for an intention I set, I really need to lean more into kind of a childlike energy, more into a fun energy, have fun with it, more creative, then maybe I'm going to lean towards the Enchanted Forest Felines. But if it's something that I'm like diving a little deeper, like I'm going to work a little bit more on shadowy aspects. I'm going to like hang out with the pirates in Stardust Wanderer Tarot. And it, you know, what's really cool is because I write all the descriptions for the cards and then I hand it to the artist. Like, I'm not an artist. I only write. I can't draw for anything. So I write each description out for each of the 78 cards. Very, very, very detailed. I hand it to the artist and they look at my descriptions and they draw the card, and then we tweak it until it gets to where I want it to go. And on the Stardust Wanderer Tarot deck, I also have zodiac signs on there, like some astrology bits in there too. So that if somebody wants to kind of start tapping into that, they can. And I think by, you know, if you are getting, you don't want to get overwhelmed by the tarot deck that you're using. You don't want it to kind of side quest and you're like so involved with the cards, are saying like they're too intense that you lose focus on your lunar cycle that you're working with. So I think it's, you know, starting again, simple. If you just get a very simple deck that's just very calm, not super deep, like just to kind of get used to it. If you're somebody who doesn't know tarot or just starting with tarot, a Rider-Waite Smith deck, like the basic deck, I think is a good starting point. And it also helps you learn the basics and learn, and again, build that base for your practice. And I think at that point too, you can use tarot as a tool and try, and it won't be too much. Because there are some really intense decks out there, like super intense decks. So if you start picking those up, it might be a little bit too much when you're first starting. But as you get along and you're on your way, then you do whatever you want to do. But when you're first starting, again, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate. Don't
overcomplicate it. And then again, coming back to that discernment when you are learning, whether it's witchcraft or tarot or spirituality in itself, intuitive development even, and not getting bombarded with the spiritual content that's online.
Right.
Like,
no, absolutely. And, you know, you can start with a deck. You can use a different deck for each phase if you want, or you could switch halfway through, or you could stick with the one deck. You remember that you don't have to, you're not tied to that. You know, you decide like, oh, I'm going to start using the Stardust Wanderer and off I go. And you get through a couple of phases and you're like, oh, you know what? I think I need a different energy. Switch it, get something else. And that's totally fine too. Don't feel, because again, I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you to do it. So again, that discernment, like keeping that self-check in and making sure that, how am I feeling? Am I feeling anxious when I'm pulling cards? Am I not? Is this happening or that happening? Okay, maybe let me try a different deck. And you do, and it's not really what you need. So you go back to the Stardust. You know, like you can switch things around and try different things. I want you to do that. I want you to see what works for you. So, because knowing what works for you and what doesn't work for you is going to make you more successful pretty much in everything. So I think that's really important.
In everything, in every aspect.
Like life in general.
It's so true though.
It's just giving yourself credit and giving yourself space to make mistakes and not trying, you know, to do everything perfectly. Because if you're so worried about doing it perfect or using this certain set of cards and it's not vibing with what you're doing, then you are more likely to stop and quit and not do it anymore. And that's the last thing that any of us want you to do. We want you to keep going. We want you to do it. And even if you decide, you know, I'm going to put the tarot cards down, I'm not going to use them for the rest of the cycle, that's fine too. Like, it's okay. Every time you say, oh, should I do this? Is it bad if I do this? Or if I do? No, just do what feels right. Do what feels right.
And we're not going to have the same journey as somebody else because our lessons are going to be different. Our energy is different. Everything is, our path is different. It's not meant to look exactly the same as somebody else's. So,
right. Everybody's perspective is different. You know, if you go and get a tarot reading from me, a tarot reading from you on the same exact question, it's going to be a little different. It might have the same thread running through it, But because my perspective, my life experience are different than yours, it's definitely going to be, a little bit different. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to be exactly the same as anybody else when you are doing, again, anything. It's okay to be different. You can use people as inspiration. If you see a practice online, or if you watch somebody online and you like how they read tarot and it really works for you, you can try out some of the techniques. That's fine. But you don't have to say the exact words that they say. You don't have to do it exactly, but you can try out the different things and see how it works and make it your own.
I personally feel that our healing journey also matters, right? Like it comes back to that accountability, and the shadow work is definitely part of that. But and seeking therapy, everybody needs a little bit of therapy. So that doesn't hurt.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people I've had come to me when I was reading actively, and basically they'd be like, "Yeah, you're my therapist," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not. I love you, but no."
But they do. They seek us out when they need hope.
Yes, and the thing is, sometimes when I've had people come to me and I'd be like, this is you can try this, you can try that, but I do think maybe you need to outsource this. And sometimes they need people to tell them that. So as a reader, don't be afraid to tell people that either. And you don't have to be like, hey, you know what? Things are wackadoo. You need to go talk to someone. You can say it obviously in a professional way, but sometimes you do need to do that. Sometimes you do need to be that person because they aren't trusting their intuition right now, and maybe why they're asking you these certain questions. So you need to be that person and be, hey, I think right now, if you outsource this, maybe go talk to somebody. Let them know that you talk and work with me, because a lot of therapists love tarot readers, and there's a lot of therapists that are tarot readers now, but a lot of people use tarot for journaling and that sort of thing, and to kind of help with that. And again, because it's that other perspective, and it kind of takes you away from yourself, gets you out of your own head. And that really is helpful too for some people.
Agreed. Carrie, I agree. Runes are cool too if you have the right person to read them. Kelly Harrell.
I love
Kelly
runes.
Harrell is who I suggest she's been on the show as well too.
Jane Matthews is really good too.
Oh no, say it again, please.
Jane Matthews.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Very good friend of mine. And she actually just came out with a rune deck. So it's actually it's like a card rune deck, like an oracle deck, and it's really, really nice.
Amazing. That's amazing. We should have her on Spirit Switchboard, and we can chat about the runes and her rune deck too. Moon phase that you feel is most misunderstood?
Right off the bat, I'm going to say the dark moon, the last phase before the cycle ends, and we go back to that new moon, the waning crescent. It's also called the dark moon. That is the rest and integration phase, and everyone wants to skip it. I don't need to rest. I don't need to integrate. What's next, right? And that's, everybody's like, no, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. It is so, so, so important, because that's where everything's settling in. Everything's going where it needs to go. The energy is resetting itself so that you can start working with the new moon in that next couple of days, in that week, or whatever you decide to do. But I do feel that so many people want to skip over that. It's like when, if the doctor's like, okay, well, you should probably rest, if they're like, take, a 5-minute nap every day. And you're like, yeah, sure. Okay. But it will make such a difference, if you took a minute to rest. So I think the rest, the self-care, the integrating, you may not even know you're integrating until after it's over, but it's happening. And if you have gone through all of these phases and did all of this work, shadows showing up and all of that, it definitely is a thing. So I do think that's really, really, really important. And, the word shadow is kind of newer. It's kind of a newer word. And I use it because I know people, most people understand it, but it's kind of like manifest. It's kind of like medium. It's kind of like psychic. It's like a buzz kind of word or whatever. Oh yeah. Psychics do shadow work. Yeah. No, right, Contessa. It's so true. Like nobody ever heard of that. Nobody used these words before. But it's one of those things, if we don't give it a name these days, people are going to be like, I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to know what that is. I don't need to worry about it. And it makes it easier.
It's also the buzzwords. Everybody likes the buzzword.
They do. And even honestly, even using the word manifesting on my cover, I kind of thought about that for a minute, because that is, and that one gets really thrown into like the love and light circles and, and all of that. And, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. That is, I'm not about toxic, positivity and all of that. I feel like, again, that's not going to help any of us. We need to work on the stuff. And, even with the word manifesting and that, but I'm like, I'm going to use it because if you read my book, you'll understand what I mean by it. Like, I want you to use it. It's an active thing. It's a verb. You're doing something. It's action. It's not just the wishing. So it's kind of my way, my very, very small, tiny way of trying to move it out of that, into like regular vocabulary, and not so much as the wishing and the rainbows and unicorns. Even though, again, all those things are great, but we need to know that you do need to do work. You do need to take the time. You need to learn the things. You need to learn about yourself and all of that before you can kind of move that energy.
That's right. I cannot stress enough about the learning about yourself, the accountability, and the shadow work is part of that. The shadow work is part of the accountability.
Right. And learning about those, parts of yourself, you may think that they're like not great, but the more you start looking into that and the more you start kind of learning about yourself, you're like, wait a minute, I can actually really use this. That maybe you really suck at setting boundaries. But there's this little part of yourself that's a little firecracker that you're like, no, I'm not gonna cause trouble. But you know what? That little firecracker can really help you out setting boundaries. And then once you put that together, you're like, oh, so it's almost like you could call on that, And I'm very big on naming things. I like to name things, so I always name everything, And it's like giving those little parts of yourself a name too, make them less scary.
That's right.
And, because again, you're learning to integrate that. You're learning to make friends with those things. And sometimes those things are things that maybe, Aunt Betty said to you when you were 5. And, set that little brainworm in, and you always thought that's how you were, but it wasn't. It was just something that she kept saying to you as a little kid. So I think that's really, something to think about, and you can actually go back in your head and kind of rewrite that scene. Like if you remember that, and a lot of times, a lot of people that I've worked with too, it's a relative that told them that they were overweight as a child when they really weren't. And I know, I'm pretty sure most of us have at least one relative that's made a comment that has stuck with us all the way through. And it's like going back though, taking that time, write it out. Journal that whole story out and rewrite that to where you're like, what, Aunt Betty? No, that's not how I am. I'm actually the perfect size I need to be. And I am exactly where I need to be. And I am healthy and I am strong. And you can rewrite that. And you can just read that over. If something starts popping up related to that, read that over. Read it out loud. Rip it out. Whatever you need to do with it. But again, you're moving that energy. So I think that's really important to also realize what was kind of set into your head by somebody else and what is yours. Because sometimes our shadows are those little things that people put into our heads. So
for sure they do.
And those you can squash, and you would be amazed at how many you can squash.
And sometimes it's a subconscious thing. Subconsciously or consciously, it gets projected.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Carrie, thank you so much for sharing. She's sharing, I learned using a certain spread of removing karma. Tarot has numbers, therefore there are codes. I was told to set intention of what I want to remove it. Uploads from the Akashic of my records.
Akashic records, yeah. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, the Akashic records are are very interesting. And I do think that, again, that's kind of a thing that has gotten lost in translation online. So I do think that when people work with them, it can be very telling, a lot of information and all of that. And it's just a matter of learning from the right person and somebody who has true intentions, because unfortunately with the Akashic records, a lot of people, you can really sell that on someone. And I'm trying.
That's okay. I say it all the time. I'm about to step in a big pile of poo. Here we go.
too much trouble. So you gotta remember, I'm an Aries moon and a Sagittarius rising. I have a lot of fire. So sometimes that's when my Libra comes in. We have to be like, shh, calm down. Yeah. So so I do think that. So some people think that whatever's in the Akashic records is set in stone. That's it. That's what your life mission is, and whatever. I do feel that you can change that. Again, it's your choose your own adventure story. If you work with the Akashic records and you see something in there that you want to change, you can ask your guides, how do I change that? If there's something you want to heal, ask them, how do you heal that? What can I do? And go from there. I don't think, there was somebody I knew that would be like, oh, I'm going to heal you in the Akashic records. I'm going to put you in a vault, and in 24 hours, you're going to be healed. So I don't feel like that's going to be helpful, because again, we don't have the action steps. Just like when you're working with the phases, just when you're trying to manifest and manipulate energy, you need to change. You need to create change in order for change to happen. I think that's really important,
Thoughts, words, deeds, and actions, they all have to be in alignment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, again, if somebody wants to know more about that, take the time to learn about that. And don't just trust that somebody's going to take you here and take you there. And and I'm not even relating anything to you, Carrie, at all. This is more generally speaking. This, it's just about, it's with the manifesting though. It's the same thing. Like, you have these people that tell you, oh, I'm going to you can manifest in 3 days, light this candle, turn around 3 times and clap your hands. And what you want is going to drop into your lap. Right. And that's just not how it works. And it goes with any sort of energetic space. So the Akashic records, energetic space, lunar work, energetic space, Reiki, energetic space. It's all of those things. So knowing that you can't just stand there and let it happen, or speak it out and just think it's going to happen. I mean, it might, but then it's like winning the lottery. You never really know. And then you might not understand why it's happening. At least when you're doing the work, you understand why it's happening. I did these actions that the universe saw that I was ready to receive. And this happened, it's falling into place. And now, okay, well, these shadow things popped up. Why are they popping up as I'm receiving what I want? The good things are happening. Why is this shadow popping up? All right, there's a scarcity mindset that my grandma put into my head because she was alive during the Depression. And so that's what she learned. Okay, well, you know what? Right. I can work through that. How can I change that? And then you start carrying on again with your phases and move through it. So it is a journey. It's a journey. You're signing up for a journey regardless of what practice you participate in.
Agreed. And you have to take ownership of your role and your part in how that unfolds.
And that's very important.
What kind of transformation do you hope that people will take away from, what kind of transformation do you hope readers will experience after spending time with manifesting with the man?
I think, my hope is that they understand themselves and what they really want. Because again, there's a lot of times that we think we want something because it's almost been put on to us. Like, Jen, oh, I bet you really, want this to happen and that because you like that stuff. Well, no, I didn't talk about that. I didn't ask for any of that, but they subconsciously put that into your head. And right. That may be because that may be something that they want, but they're not ready to do the work. So they're kind of putting it there, hoping that by you doing it, it'll somehow bounce back to them. Right. So I think it's, again, just understanding yourself and being able to create a practice that you're actually going to use. I'm very practical. I like to be practical. Like I said, if you want to go get any of the stuff for the spell work or even spell work in general that you want to do, I want you to be able to walk into the dollar store and under $20 get everything you need. You know, so that's really what's important to me. And I just rather you do it than worry about all the other stuff. Even if you just didn't do any spell work and you just had a deck of tarot cards, that's fine. You know, even if you didn't have the tarot cards and you found some shells at the beach that you use as divination, that's totally fine as long as you're doing something. So even just that's really big. I just want people to trust themselves, trust the intuition, and really and make their lives better for themselves, really.
So what are you still curious about as a witch, as a creator, as a teacher? What
everything
still sparks curiosity? Oh, I love that. When I wrote this question down, that's what I was thinking. I want every day to feel like Christmas morning. I wonder how today's going to be.
Gosh, I have such a squirrel brain. I am just like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's this? Oh, I want to learn about that. I want to do this. I want to, you know, I love to learn. I don't think that we ever need, you know, we're never going to stop learning. And I think that being open and learning how to just even use simple things around us, learning about other people, because the more you understand yourself, the more you'll understand other people. So then you can have deeper conversations. And I think that's really great too. But I see the elder. I use playing cards. I use playing cards all the time. Oh my gosh.
I love using playing cards.
Super easy to use. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because that's really what, you know, a lot of times that's what was available, especially way back when tarot cards were expensive. Yeah. You know, they were like, I'll accept that title. I'll take it. Tarot cards were way back when they first started being made in the 1500s. They were very, very expensive. So usually it was only the really rich, spoiled people had them. And most other people would use playing cards or cards they drew or whatever, because they used to have to hand paint all the cards. So that it wasn't easy to get them. So people would use so many different things. I mean, honestly, using shell divination, bones, I do bones, read bones as well. They were doing that way before they even had tarot, way before any of that business. I mean, they were using intestines and, you know, reading intestines of animals. They were, again, using the moon and seeing how they felt, or they would, you know, put something out. And if the moon shone on it, it meant this, that, and the other thing. So there's so many, you know, ways to work with your energy and things to learn, that I think it's so open to that. And I think it's really important to be open to other people's perspectives as well.
And just being mindful, we're starting to come down to the top of the hour as well too. So being mindful of our time. Mish is asking, what's the oldest set of tarot cards have? So you know what, I'm the wrong person to ask that. So I don't have an answer for that.
Okay,
so I have would just be my own.
Yeah, so I went to New York City, and one of the museums, I don't remember the name of it, had one of the original sets of tarot cards from Pamela Coleman Smith, who did the art for the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So they had the original, one of the originals, I think there's maybe two-ish, all out. They were all laid out in the case. And I was there for the longest time just staring at them, because I couldn't believe, like, they were the ones like she drew, like she touched these cards. So that was the oldest ones that I saw, and it was as amazing as you think it would be. Well,
she followed it up with, Mish, you are so great. Is there a tarot museum? How old are those cards? How old is the Rider deck?
That deck, I believe that deck was it might have been from the 1600s. There is a Visconti deck in England, in the museum in England. If you Googled it, you could find it. I remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they have a Visconti deck. And that's one of those ones that were like hand painted for like the royals. And that one I think is like maybe 1600, like late 1500s, and it's in the England museum there, and it's always there. Like they never, I don't think they would move them. So that deck is there. This deck, I think when it's not there, it was only like an exhibit. It was only there for a month, and I think they must have been back in England. But there are a few tarot museums around, not a ton. And any of the really, really, really old cards, they're going to be, I think, mostly in England. And there might be some in Italy because that's really where it all started. So that's definitely, oh my gosh, they probably have a wall full of them.
Misha's asking how many sets are in the Vatican.
No, I'm telling you, they probably have so many in there, in that vault downstairs.
Yes, agreed.
Wouldn't you love to get in there?
Yes.
They have.
Yes, I would.
The aliens are down there.
Everything.
Tarot cards. That's what's happening. You know something's going on down there. 100%. 100%.
I think so. This has been so great. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's gone by so quickly. So yeah, I just appreciate it. Can you let people know where they can find you, what you have coming up next, where they can purchase the book, which is brilliant, folks. I will post a picture with it when I get back to my house in golf.
That's what it looks like. I know
it's a beautiful cover.
I have to wait for the photo, but it's there. It's Jen Sankey. Really, if you Google Jen Sankey, I come up on everything. I play a lot on Instagram. That's Stardust Wanderer Tarot. And that is the name of my website. So you can find me there. I'm really, if you just Google my name, it's everywhere. Because I'm on all the things. So I have another deck coming out soon, Goblin Whispers Tarot. And it is goblin-y goodness. I'm a big David Bowie fan, and Labyrinth, if anybody's seen that, you know. So there's our Dark Crystal, like any of the 80s movies that had like goblins and stuff in it, that's the inspiration for it. I do have a couple, it's not done, it's about halfway through. I did post some on my Instagram if you want to see some of the in-action cards that have already been finished. So I'm in the middle of writing that. I have another tarot deck that I'm hoping to be able to announce very, very soon that I'm excited about. One tidbit I will say is my artist is from Italy. And so I'm really excited about that. That's going to be fun. I have, there's another book that's floating around, just waiting for the full go ahead from my publisher. So hopefully soon we'll be able to talk about that a little more. And I have a couple of events coming up. So definitely some online, some in person. Go ahead and check me out. Like on Instagram, I post all the things. So that's probably the easiest place to find all the information for that.
Amazing. Thank you so very much, folks. Thank you, Jen. It's been great, and I will love the doors open. I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, everybody too for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody in the chat. I appreciate all of you. I love the little community that we've been building here, and appreciate all your comments and your questions. Next week, Marilyn Kaufman is coming back on. She is a hypnotherapist, and she's been on a number of times before. We're going to be talking about consciousness next week. So I would love for you guys to join in the chat. I hope if you celebrate Easter, that you have a great weekend. If you're just enjoying the long weekend, whatever you're getting up to, I hope that you have fun doing that as well too. Thanks so much for being here. So thank you to Michelle DeRoche, our network manager, Joe Montaldo, our network owner. Thank you to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Thank you, everybody. We hope that you had we hope that you have a great weekend, and we'll see you here next Friday. Take care. Good night.
Bye, thank you.